Hello, everyone, and welcome to Collect, Expand, Innovate, Get in the Know with your research brain. My name is Shelley Hayduck, and I'm co-hosting today's event with Matt Keaton, our Director of Customer Solutions.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We've got some great examples of how to get more information out of your information, so we're really excited about presenting today.
All right, and for those of you that are new to the Brain Technologies event, I do want to let you know that we have two audio modes. You can have us stream through your computer speakers, or you can call in through the conference line if you need to conserve audio bandwidth or don't have speakers on your computer. You don't need to do both. Due to the volume of attendees, you will automatically be muted, so we won't hear your dog barking in the background, or if you're chatting with a colleague about some cool brain you're seeing, go continue that conversation. We can't hear you, but that being said, we absolutely do want your feedback, and that is if you go to your GoToMeeting panel in the questions area. We'll be popping in and out on that depending on who's presenting, and then at the end of the session, we're going to reserve at least 10 minutes for Q&A. So if you have a specific application, a brain, if I've shown a feature too quickly, or if there's a feature you want to see that I haven't seen, that's what the Q&A is for. Go ahead and use that to your advantage. And with that, I guess we're going to get started. Matt, and I just want to verify, can you see my screen okay?
Yes, I can. It looks great.
Okay, great. Well, the whole idea and premise of the brain is to organize information and bring a wide source of information together. So one of the interesting things about creating a research brain is there is a ton of information out there, terabytes of data, but putting it together in a way that actually reflects what you want to do with the information, what your unique perspective is, how this information can serve the products that you're producing. That is where the brain comes in. My first brain that I want to start off with, we're going to be very positive here and talk about science heroes. And first of all, I'm going to launch this webpage from Science Heroes, and I want to give credit to where credit's due. This particular brain is built on another website, and I've specifically done that for today's session because I want to talk, first of all, about the principle of dynamic recontextualization and contextualizing information sources. So we have a lot of web pages, lots of pub data. You're going to be going to a lot of different sources as a research scientist, as a product manager, even as a sales rep when you're researching that next client. But often, as we look at this wonderful website, things are happening in lists. So what we tend to do is we tend to organize information in a linear format, either through a search result list, Google, or a website like this, or even our folders are basically a linear subcategorization. So what the brain offers is a way to move beyond a list of people. So for instance, here on this site, we can look at the top 10 women life-saving scientists, which is very cool. And we can click on Pearl Kendrick, which is also very interesting. She invented the whooping cough vaccine. But now I'm just looking at Pearl Kendrick. I'm looking at the whooping cough vaccine. I could have some related links, but I can't really see how things are connected, and I don't know what I could do as a researcher. So I could probably take her, place her on my desktop, or put her in a folder. Maybe I want to put her in this folder, but I would inevitably be confining Pearl Kendrick. I would be organizing by separating as opposed to connecting Pearl Kendrick to my ideas. So that's where the brain comes in. So what I want to show you here is an example of a particular knowledge base, and the reason we call it a knowledge base is because what we're doing is we are creating and gathering all these bits of information that would otherwise be scattered, putting them in one place, and we're not just dumping them in a folder or creating a folder hierarchy. We're actually conceptualizing a information schema that's going to serve my particular needs. So in this case, this particular brain is all about science heroes. So I have a section on drugs and disease treatment. And from here, I can go ahead and go into any number one of diseases. So if I want to go into respiratory distress syndrome, I can click on that thought. And then I can continue to click downward and read about how there is a replacement therapy for premature infants. But one of the advantages of the brain is that as I'm drilling down, unlike a file folder system, one piece of information, often is the case in a research environment, can be organized under multiple categories. So we have the concept of multi-dimensional categorization. Multi-dimensional categorization is absolutely critical for any type of complex sets of information. And contrary to what you might think, instead of making things more complex, it simplifies. It gives me that picture. So I can see that this is under condition, and I can go back and see that we came through drugs and disease treatment. I can even see that Mary Ellen Avery is the female scientist that pioneered this process, but it's also under the broader category science for children. So that's very interesting, because now I can go back and look at all the different things we're doing here for science for kids. And, maybe I want to go into vitamin A deficiencies, and that takes me into a whole new area, and I have that linked under Alfred Summer, who, of course, pioneered the fact that you need to give kids vitamin A supplementation, and I've got his image. So one piece of information connects to something else, and I'm moving through a large system of information in a very, very associative, very natural way. Now, in terms of the brain, of course, each one of these thoughts can have a document or spreadsheet attached to it. It can have an image. Let me go ahead and actually go and float this window back and north and open up my notes area as well. So there's a lot of tools for research beyond sort of the thoughts themselves. So in this area below, you can actually see that I've got a summary of that particular scientist. And of course, I can click on any document. So let me click on vitamin supplementation, and that launches that particular document. So I've got documents. I've got links to different websites. So if I want to launch the website on the Wikipedia, I can go ahead and do that. So now I've got his link, and let me go ahead and launch his web page here. So I've moved really quickly by looking at his stuff, and I just want to actually make this brain. I was trying to adjust the thoughts here, just make things a little bit smaller, and I'm just using my mouse wheel here just to make things smaller so everyone can see what's going on. And I'm going to turn off the distant thoughts so this looks a little cleaner for people to look at. That's a setting that we can talk to. So this guy is under 3 different categories. He's under food innovation because he's done a lot with the help people to supplement different foods with vitamin A. He's a key scientist, an amazing person, and I have a new section in this brain about inner city children and urban health concerns, where I've added him because he's impacted that as well. And of course there I've got a document for a grant for research. I've got some pictures and other news items, and I've got some relevant again, news items on, inner city children issues as they relate to health. So you can see how you can move things back. And now let's get back to Pearl Kendrick, this amazing scientist who invented the whooping cough. So that is, of course, the whooping cough vaccine. And we've got her right here in my brain. If I didn't have her, I could, of course, drag and drop her in. And she is a top 10 female scientist. If I actually want to create a new section on vaccines, I can go ahead and do that. So I'm just going to create a new area. And it's actually letting me know that I have that thought already. So one of the great things about the brain is it will actually help you remember information that you would otherwise forget you have. So in this case, I just want to link her right under vaccines, hit checkbox, and now I've got that particular section under vaccines as well. So you can see how nice everything comes together. Now I can continue to build a brain and add information. So if I wanted to do research on the whooping cough vaccine, for instance, I'm going to go up to my options and go ahead and hit Search Web. And from there, I can go ahead and add information. So there's an adult vaccination. Let me drag and drop this in. So all I'm doing to add my information is I'm simply dragging from the browser address window and dropping it to where I want it. So in this case, I've got that there. And then let me go ahead and go and get the kids version. Let's do one for infants. And I can put this in my brain. Now, I can also go ahead and add documents if I want to go ahead and do some research on health effects of this vaccine, health implications of, I can go ahead and do that, and I can attach any document to my work here. So let me go ahead and add an attachment. And in this case, it's going to be a Word document, and I can write about maybe the benefits, potential side effects. And I'm going to save this in my brain. So I'll just go to File and hit Save. And that goes ahead and it saves right into my brain. And this might be related to something that's more important for different areas. So I'm going to go ahead and make a note for California, where there have been pockets of this. And now at the top of my brain, I'm going to create a section called Regional Health Concerns. And you can see with regional health concerns, I'm going to go ahead and add something for California. Let me go ahead and add Africa, where there's now some new concerns about the polio virus and the polio vaccine. So I'm going to go ahead and connect that there. And you can see now I'm making connections. And this could be information that I'm working on very closely. I can also pin different areas. So if I'm looking at a different medical technique, maybe it has to do with CPR. And this particular researcher, I can right-click on any thought and create a pin. So now, regardless of where I am in this particular brain, I can quickly move back to Alfred Summer, James Jude, who we just pinned, or actually some research I'm doing on vitamin-infused snacks, which is in food innovation. So this, there's really no limit to the number of thoughts I can add in this brain. And you can see how we've taken a lot of information. Let's just look at all the tabs. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tabs. Now, how many tabs can I realistically keep open on my web browser? Not that many. The only other option is, of course, I guess I could store them in my favorites or my bookmarks. But that is also a linear list as well, whether I'm using Chrome or Internet Explorer or what have you. So in this way, I've created this complete source of information in my brain. So that's one example. The next example here I want to move to is a brain on experimental research. And this particular brain, I actually want to show you a couple different modes. So now that brain was more about recontextualizing and linking information up from one particular source. The second brain, I'm just going to close all these tabs here, it enables me to visualize a process over my information. So with experimental research, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to my views, and I'm going to go to outline view here. And what outline view lets me do is it lets me expand and collapse different branches of a brain, so I have a broader view of this brain, but in a more almost folder-like sessions. So with experimental research, you have an experimental design, you have controlled experiments, you have alternating treatments, you can do different types of experiments, and you have variables. So in this brain, what I've done is I've actually mapped out the experimental design with the parent-child relationship. And let me just go back to the normal mode so you can see. So in the scientific method, the first step in this process is observation. Second, so I could have all my observations of what I want to observe. And then the second step is to create a hypothesis. So this is where you're creating a hypothesis, and then you're gathering evidence and testing evidence. From there, I've got two branches. The children in this brain are acting as sort of a visual troubleshooting tree here, where I can reject my hypothesis, or I can retain my hypothesis, in which case I'll think about applications for this research. So by visualizing this process, it helps me explain to maybe new scientists how that works. And we've got all kinds of other different areas here as well. Now I can also show you this brain in expanded view. And expanded view is very interesting as well, because it also lets me kind of set where I want my different thoughts. And this makes a lot of sense as well if I want a broader overview on a process. So with expanded view, I can see that my first step is observation, and then I can open up hypothesis. I can activate hypothesis, so that becomes the focus while still seeing the distant thoughts, and then continue to mouse this out. And maybe I really want to show rejecting and retaining hypothesis, and what we do if we reject hypothesis and retain, just hitting the plus sign there. You can see what this looks like, and I've sort of structured the thoughts to suit the process here. Now, beyond research, this is great for training, so people get a broader understanding on a set of information that they're looking at. It's also great for people to do analysis on their information. Oh, we might be missing, something in this area, or this area here on experimental design. We've only got two variables here. Let's flesh this out further. Or maybe we had to reject the hypothesis due to a flaw in the experimental design. So in which case, I'm going to connect experimental design to rejecting my hypothesis, and now I've made a connection there. And Matt's actually going to get a little bit more in his session on how to define these link types as well. So again, just another example of how the very structure of our information can have meaning. We don't have to just throw a bunch of stuff in a folder or throw things into bookmarks or organized by buckets. We can actually have a very intelligent, very creative view of the information that we access every day. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move on to a slightly different example. I'm going to go to my legal brain. And this particular brain is all about legal research. I'm just going to go back to normal view here. It's all about legal. And so this is a knowledge base for an attorney or lawyer. Of course, you want to customize your knowledge base and make it look nice. I've kept the other two brains white, very streamlined. But in this case, you can see that I've got a background, I've got icons. So let's go ahead and look through this particular brain. So again, clicking on any thought triggers all related pieces of information. So every time I click on a thought, it brings this thought to the center, and all information around the brain is displayed. Now, if you are doing a lot of work with different departments, maybe you're in government, maybe you're in a large organization where you have different teams, you can do team mappings or departmental mappings. And you can see I've sort of done this with my United States courts. We've gone into the federal court area. There's courts established by Congress, and there's Article 3 court, one of which is, of course, the U.S. Supreme Court. So there I've gone ahead and mapped out in this area just cases that are relevant to me. And that's also why, somebody once asked me, well, why would I use the brain? Why can't I just Google everything? Well, I don't want to see everything that's on the internet every time I'm doing research on a topic. What I want are things that are relevant to me. So the brain is about making choices and what we call the primacy of information, bringing that most relevant information that's going to serve you in whatever you're doing, whether you're researching a case for the Supreme Court or researching your next client. The information is right there. So in this case, what I did is I just have thought to sort of the most relevant, the milestone rulings of the Supreme Court. So this could be a teaching example for entry-level law students, or it can just be an area that helps inspire me as an attorney. I've got the notes area as well that I want to pull up for this example also, because if I click on, for instance, or mouse over Brown versus Education Board of Topeka, if I don't remember what that is, although for most of you lawyers, these are pretty obvious cases, but, you know, a lot of people need refreshers. It was a ruling that ended racial segregation in America's public schools. So I just have that little summary of the ruling in my notes. And also, for instance, if I mouse over Miranda versus Arizona, you can note the note below. This was also a key ruling. This gave people who were arrested the right to be informed of their legal status, the right to remain silent. So there's all kinds of different things. So the notes area in this case is also very helpful. And you will find as a researcher, yes, I can drag and drop documents into my brain. I can drag and drop links, but I can also take my own notes in the notes area below, and that's what we're doing. So I also have a PDF attached here that I'm launching. This is the rules of the Supreme Court. So you can see I've gone from some notes to my PDF, and I've got a link to the Affordable Care Act as well, the ruling and opinion on that. And if I click on that, I can see that Justice John Roberts wrote that opinion, and I attached an image on Justice John Roberts. And I can see that there are 9 justices in the Supreme Court. I've actually gone ahead and mapped all 9 of them out. This is also, the brain is great. We did a webinar a couple weeks ago on people networks, which, you know, your knowledge base could be all about people. And in this case, what I've done is I've mapped out all of the 9 justices. I'm not sure how, if there's some updating that needs to be done. There's been some attrition, obviously, with Justice Scalia. But so that's something we'll have to work on changing in this brain. But you can see here that I've got all the different justices. And, of course, I can click on them to see what their rulings are. So we've got Alina Keegan, and I've got some information on, she was a speaker at this area. She's on this association, and I can launch that and learn a little bit more about what she's doing. And, of course, if I want to go ahead and add information to this brain, I can do that as well. So let me go ahead and just do a search web feature for U.S. Supreme Court. And let me go to the news section this time. And there's an interesting article in USA News World Report, Why the Supreme Court Matters, Its Role. So let me go ahead and close this ad here and add this article in. So again, I'm simply going to drag and drop from the address bar. I want to decide where I want to put this. In this case, I want it right under the United States Supreme Court. I'm going to drag and drop that. And that actually gives me that news article and why it matters. The other thing that's kind of cool is you saw those wonderful images, and I know inevitably somebody is going to ask, how do you add these images? So I like this image. This is pretty cool. So I'm going to right-click and select to copy this image, this beautiful image of the Supreme Court, and I want to use this as a thought icon for this area. So I'm going to paste this as a thought icon. So now, rather than my other icon, I've got this image, this picture, and I don't know if it's coming across on the website. It might be hard to explain. If I mouse over this image attached to U.S. Supreme Court, it actually then shows me that image full size. So that's a great thing. It's really good if you have different images that you want to browse through. Attach them as icons to your thoughts, and then you can do, you know, fun stuff like that. Because of course we are very visual technology, visualizing relationships and so forth. Let me see. Let me just add one more link so you can see how quick and easy it is to add information from the internet. So there's some politics on the Supreme Court, an article from the New York Times. So again, simply dragging from the browser address window and dropping it in this brain. Now in this case, I think my subscription is expired, so it's asking me to log in, but I can easily, change that link just by renaming it. So I'll name this Supreme Court Politics. There we go. And I've got that changed. And so now I've got that link to that article from the New York Times. So you can see, and it actually will have, the other thing that's nice is it takes the favicon from the site, so I can see U.S. News and World. I can see that this is the patent protection, or the patient protection. This is that particular icon is for a government site. This is the New York Times article, where I can add my own little icons as well. So for instance, for the 9 justices, if I want to right-click on this thought and just go ahead and add an icon, I can go ahead and do that. And I can do this a couple ways. I can go ahead and select an icon from here, or I can go ahead and do it also by clicking on this plus sign in the tabs below. And for 9 justices, let me go and grab, we have over 1,000 icons, and I'm looking for maybe a gavel or something that looks like justice. Let's go ahead and use a shield since they're protecting everyone. That'll work. That's good. So you can see that I've gone ahead and added a little icon there for my 9 justices, and that looks pretty good. So that's a little bit on adding research and researching, sort of broad mainstream topics. I want to actually go back to the top of this brain, because this brain does a little bit more. It actually helps people get their work done. If we go into the criminal justice area, I'm going to go into the defense section of this brain. This brain is aggregating a bunch of resources for a lawyer who needs to defend clients. So we have, for instance, services on a forensic psychologist that this lawyer might use for psychological evaluation. And so I can click on any one of these links and say, well, maybe I want to hire this particular doctor to evaluate a client of mine to build a case. So all those resources are right there. And I also have a link to the consent form. So if I do have a client who wants to be evaluated, they need to give consent to do that. So I've got that template form right there. So everything I need on that process is available. Same thing with polygraph services. This is here. DNA laboratories. Here's a link to some forensic consulting services that we might use on a case as well. So that's all there. That's really cool. And so the reason this is interesting is because if I go into client and I want to have a new case, let me just create this new case. And I'll just say new case, keep it generic. So I can actually go ahead and I can start my briefing on the new case. I'm going to add an attachment and start writing things up. New case information. And I'm going to go ahead and save this. But what I can also do is go back and now aggregate. In DNA laboratories, we actually wanted to use this forensic consulting person for this new case. So I want to link that to my new case. So let me just go ahead and make a link to that. We also, using the past thought list, there were a couple people, Dr. Samuel Miles, who's going to be consulting on this case. So again, what I could do is I could go back to my new case. So let me just use the search, go back to my new case. And I could also link Samuel this way. So now I'm actually connecting the resources that I'm using for this case in this area. So Samuel Miles, forensic consulting. There's also a case assessment that I have on my desktop. So I want to go ahead and add that information in my brain. So let me just minimize some of these areas. So I've got a legal folder on my desktop here. And what I'm going to do is actually add the client assessment for this new case. So I simply drag this Word document and drop it in my new case section, what that does is that makes a shortcut to where that file needs to go, and I can activate that, and it'll actually show me in the Thought tab the path area, and I can move this into the brain or copy it. Maybe in this case I'll copy it. And I've got that. So you can see how quickly I can continue to build a context, and I'll just call this new best case. I can change the name. And I've got that. I'm also going to create a pin to this area in my brain. So now wherever I am, maybe I'm looking at my trial map. This is an interesting area because I've actually used numeration to talk about a process. So first step, and our very young attorneys will reference this actually, so they know how to get started on a trial. So you do jury selection. So I've got information on that. Then you work on your opening statement. And again, notes can be helpful. So opening with a lively hook, I've got a little note on, how to do that, how to make a jury laugh. And then from there, you have direct examination, cross, and then closing arguments. So in this case, the thoughts are presented in a chronological fashion to indicate everything that has to do with trial. So you can absolutely see how that can be handy in this particular brain. Now, real quick, what I also want to show you is how to add even more information into your brain with folders. So what I can do is I can actually do a folder import here. So if I go back out to my legal folder, of course I can simply drag and drop this, and that creates a shortcut to that file, and I've got that, and I've got that shortcut. But if I don't want the shortcut, or don't want this as a shortcut, let me just go ahead and forget that. I can also go up to File and select Import, and I can import a folder. And so what that's going to do is it's going to take this folder structure and all the files and visualize them as thoughts. So I've got a lot of great information in my legal folder outside of my brain. I'm going to select Import, select Folder, and I'm going to go to the desktop, and I'm going to grab that legal folder, hit Save. It's going to ask me if I want to undo it. No, I want all 4 directories in there. So now I've got a legal folder, and I've got my clients, my employment agreements, my trademarks. And note what it's done is everything that's in your folder, it attaches to that thought. So for instance, I had 2 documents in my client's folder. Well, now those 2 documents are attached to that particular thought. And now I can make relevant connections. So, for instance, maybe this client's area, that belongs under, these are defense clients. So I want to put this in my defense area for everything that I'm doing work for legal defense. So you can see how I can now start to reorganize, recontextualize information by having that in the brain. All right, and finally, we have just another example that I want to go to, and that example is a educational example. So let me go to my teaching and learning brain real quick. So I'll just open that from my brain area. So in your brains area, you can actually search for any brain you might have and open it. What we have here is a mapping of all kinds of information. Now, this brain is very interesting because what it shows you is how we can organize by thought type as well. So let me just go to the top of this area, and I'm going to go into the social sciences area and go to United States government, U.S. presidents. Now, there's a lot of them, of course, but what this brain has done is we've asked thought types to organize presidents by their party. So and we've also, again, we've numbered each thought, so it's displayed chronologically. Now, when you have pieces of information like that, you can look at the information, and this view, I'm in normal view, which always either alphabetizes, or if you have a numeration on your thoughts, it's going to put them in that order. But if I wanted to, in this way, by name rather, I can change that to type. Now what type does is it takes the thought type, it organizes by thought type. So now I've got all the presidents that were Democrats in one area, Federalists, yes, there was a party called Federalists at one time, and then Republicans. You can see how that's changed the way I'm looking at information. Or I can go ahead and look at last active, last modified date. So if I select that as my display, you can see I've got President Barack Obama appearing first because, of course, I've worked on him. He's the latest president. So just a little bit on once your knowledge base gets large, this arrange thoughts by right-clicking, very helpful. In this case, I love the idea of going by name because I can see from, George Washington all the way up to our current president, the history of it all. And then what the thought type enables me to do is communicate another classification on that data set, in this case, political party. That's going to get a little bit more into how to make a thought type, but just know it's very easy. So for instance, if I want to create number 45, I'll just put question mark here. I'll just put, TBD, and I can select my type. And so here I can select Republican, I can select Democrat, I can select alien life or class as I'm creating this. So let me just go ahead and select alien life to be non-political and add this in. So our next president is an alien, and number 45, Mr. or Mrs., maybe non-gendered XX, and that's the thought type that I've got there as well. Now, thought types are interesting because you can run reports on them also. So if I go to my types area and I was elsewhere in this particular brain, I could, for instance, go ahead and click on the Democrat thought and see everyone who is classified as such. So it does get, very nice, very interesting as well. So that's one thing. The other thing that I can do if I want to, I have scientific classifications. So species, in this case, I've mapped out the animal kingdom as thought types. And we're using, let's go back up to the top. Again, living kingdom, not sure if those of you are familiar, it goes from animal class to species and so forth. So there's a diagram of this, but we've actually mapped this out as thoughts in the brain. And this is kind of interesting too. So the phylum, or the kingdom, animal kingdom that it belongs to is a thought type. And then from there, we can go to the phylum, which in this case, I'll click on core data. And then these are the class of animals. So let me click on class mammal. And then from there, the order. And then it continues to family, and then all the way down to the particular species, or genus rather, and then species. So here again, thought types are giving me additional context on that information. In addition to thought types, we can also go ahead and get into thought tags. Thought tag is just another little tidbit, a way of tagging my information. So if I want to go and tag this as further research needed to be done, I can go ahead and tag that. So I'm going to do more research on maybe the habitats of lions and tigers. And now in my thought tags area, if I click on the thought tag, further research, everything in this brain that I've tagged as me needing to do further research appears. And the great thing about tags is I may not always want to link things together. I just might want some sort of additional attribute to a particular thought. That's when I'm using my thought tag. So from here you can see I need to do further research on diabetes, and this is a whole other section, whole other brain. I hope everyone can see how powerful these brains can be. There's just a lot we could get into in this brain as well, and happy to share all of these brains I've presented with you. If you want to see this, and this is a hypothetical example, but we have very real-world brains of people solving cases, investigating all kinds of things, discovering the next drug, and then most recently saving people's lives. I'm going to end my particular session on showing you the Joint Council brain for cardiothoracic surgery, and they use a lot of tags in their brain. This particular brain is used across North America. It's a real example to teach heart surgery to up-and-coming cardiothoracic surgeons. We have a fabulous video on our site that we can send you that interviews some of the surgeons that use this particular brain. I won't get into too much, but one of the things I found interesting is how they've started with a core curriculum, mapped it out into their core areas, foundations, and then from there, things get very interesting. So, for instance, I can go into the surgical care, and I've got links to all kinds of different websites as well. I can launch websites. I may not have access to these sites because they're actually login. I've got links to different YouTube videos as well that are showing how things are done. So if I actually go ahead and want to launch a particular type of information, from a particular textbook or whatever, I can go ahead and look at that information type. There's just a lot that I can, do in this brain. In this case, you can see all kinds of different articles coming together on, a different subject. And here's even a launching of a video of how to perform the procedure. So from video content to textbook content, this brain is bringing it all together in a way that's really helping people, reduce the time to their knowledge and expertise. And, getting back to tags, what they've done, they've got this knowledge base that's very logical, that goes through everything, but they have different curriculums that they need to follow. They're called CV. So if I'm on curriculum 10, I can click on that tag, and it's going to show me everything that I need to know for curriculum 10. So that's going to maybe chapter 28 of this particular publication. That's under mechanical complications of heart disease, and here's all the other information on this if I want to go ahead and look at this. And that's under technical skills as well, because this is something technical. So you can see how easy I'm moving from one area to another in this brain. So I think with that, Matt, if there are no questions, I'm going to pass presenter over to you.
Fantastic. Thank you. I'm a little bit nervous about the alien political party, but who knows? Anything could happen. It could work.
No, exactly. All right.
So, but that's just a nice example of the different variety of thought types that can exist in one brain, and the different examples of classifications that you can have. And what I'd like to share with you today is I'm going to open up an example of a brain that I actually helped to create with someone that was in a pharmaceutical company. Now, in my copy of the brain, I've gone through and changed all the product names and all of the content and actual people names so that I'm not sharing any proprietary information. But this was a real brain that was created with a pharmaceutical research and sales company. And I thought it was a really, really great example of how you can actually get more context from your information. Now, Shelley shared with us some great examples of how we can import a folder and then link the files in those folders to all the different relationships that it may have, which a folder cannot do. We can't thought type and add tags to folders. So again, another way of classifying the subject matter of the thought or an attribute on the thought tags. In my scenario, what I'd like to share with you is how we can actually define the relationships between two thoughts that are being connected. Typically, you're in a file folder. In this example, I'm keeping track of different medications, medical conditions that we're studying, research and development, the sales department, as well as all of our clients and distributors. And of course, yes, I could have a folder with all of the different invoices and presentations and contracts and so forth for a distributor, but I'm also linking those to the different products that they're connected to, or the people that are experts in those areas. So let's take a look at that now. And first, I'll just take you on a general tour of this particular brain. Yes, I'm keeping track of all the different types of research that my organization is doing. My sales team, forecast, sales goals, all the sales literature is located here and easily accessible. I'm keeping track of all the medications. We're going to spend a little bit more time here in just a bit. All of the medications for my organizations that they're developing, as well as, notice I've got a link to other companies' medications. So I'm keeping track as well with And Shelley, I'm just going to put you on mute. I could hear your keyboard there, so I just clicked the mute button really, really quickly. So if you need to interrupt me for any reason, click that button. But also, the final component, notice that I'm researching all of the different medical conditions that my company is interested in for the research and development of our products. And in this example, let's say we get a phone call from a distributor, from a client that wants to know a little bit more about atrial fibrillation. That's a tough one to say sometimes. Atrial fibrillation. Now, AFib, I think they call it for short. Now, notice right away that I've got 3 child thoughts underneath. So I received this call. I've got 3 different products that I can speak with them about. Now, first and foremost, I need to ask and verify that they're a client. Once I know that they're a client of ours and I can distribute my information with them, I'm going to know where they're located. And if they're calling from within the U.S., that already directs where I'm going to go next in my brain because of the link types that I have associated with thoughts in my brain. Now, notice from atrial fibrillation, I first have a link to ACE, so that's a competitor medication. I don't want to spend any time talking about my competitors. I need to be informed, so I have it linked there, and I can research it and counteract any questions that a person may have about, well, I'm thinking about distributing this other product, and I've got some notes down below on ACE about their clinical trials, drafts, and notes down below on why our products are better. But also, I've got 2 of our medications linked here, dialoxin and Liforex 2.0. Notice that the link is telling me one is FDA approved, the other is non-FDA approved. Now, I mentioned earlier, this is a US-based company. I am not going to spend any time talking about Liforex. I am going to really focus this conversation on our product called dialoxin and why that particular product should be used. And what directed me there was that link type. Now, you may be wondering, well, why not just name the thought FDA-approved medication or FDA non-approved medication? And the reason is, here I'll pick on Liforex for this example. Notice that Liforex is, once again, non-FDA approved for atrial fibrillation. So if I label this as a non-FDA approved product, that's not 100% accurate. It is FDA approved for coronary artery disease. And during the course of our call, I can ask my client, are you also researching or interested in distributing any products for coronary artery disease? And if the case is yes, then my focus shifts over to Liforex 2. And of course, down below, I've got information on the development of Liforex 3. I've got disclosure information, label details, common questions, etc. So all my information is available at my fingertips. But what directs me there is the appropriate link type or link label. So let's go ahead and create some of these. And notice here, I'm just going to click to show you one more example, coronary artery disease. Here's even another link type that I have, clinical trials. If a customer is interested in medications for coronary artery disease, obviously I've got non-FDA approved, I'm going to stay away from, FDA approved. But also, let's talk about some clinical trials. Maybe we could sign you up and get you into this program. And that will help us with our research and development of this product, moving it forward. So a lot of different link types that you can set up at any time to define those relationships between thoughts. Let's set a few of those up. I'm going to go back to Liforex, and I'm going to connect a few people that are associated with this product within my organization. And they're associated with the product for different reasons. So I want to be able to define that on the link. So first I'm going to click and drag a link, and I'm just going to really quickly type in Damien. Now notice when I type in a few letters, if I just type in the letter D, I'm presented with all the thoughts that exist within my brain that start with that letter or that combination of letters, whatever I've typed in so far. That's the existing thought list, and that's really helping us to reduce clutter of information within the brain. So I only want one thought for Damien in this case, and anything that he's related to or associated with will be linked to that one thought. So I never want to have duplicate information within the brain. So I'll link Damien to Liforex 2, and I've got a few options. I can click on the link itself, and notice it highlights the link. And when I have a link highlighted within the brain, that allows me to leave notes on the link down below, and it allows me to modify the link type. So notice that my Thought Tool tab, here I'll click away, notice down below I'm on the Thought Tool tab for LifeORX, but as soon as I click on this link, my Thought Tool tab down here turns into the Link Tool tab. So now I'm focused on this link. I can add attachments to a link if I want, but typically what I do is I modify what is displayed on the Plex, on the brain itself, and sometimes even add some notes down below. This one is really, really easy. I just want to create a description that Damien is the label expert for LifeORX 2.0. We're always talking about labels with our medical products. We always want to be able to roll out with whatever information is available on the label to all of our customers and clients. Damien is the real expert here. So I'm really going to quickly just actually right-click on this. Now, I don't have a link type yet. I can create a new type, or I can just edit the link. I'll do that one next. I'll just a one-time modification of a link. But in this case, I'm going to be defining the label. Who is the label expert for all of my products? It's a new role that we're assigning here in my organization. We're going to have a label expert. So anytime you need a question answered about Swift, OneMed, whatever our products are, you go right to the label expert. So I'm going to create a new type called label expert. I'll just abbreviate that and say OK. So now that I've created this thought type, notice that I can click on another link at any time and go down to link type, and that label expert appears there. So I can go in and reassign this thought type again and again as label expert. Or when I create another product, I can specify when I'm linking the product between the medication and the medical condition, I can specify if it's FDA approved, non-FDA approved clinical trials, or whatever the relationship may be. So I can create an ongoing scrolling list. And you can actually define how a link type is going to look and feel as well. So once again, with this label expert, notice that I can just highlight that. When I have that highlighted down on the link tool tab, I get a shortcut to those link properties. So the link type is label expert, and if I click on this button, I'm opening that link type window. So all label experts will be, we can go in and say, all right, that's going to be a green, it could green light, or we've already used green. Let's make it a nice blue, and I can close that. And let's go over to OneMed. OneMed gets a label expert as well. Let's say their label expert is Wendy. And there's Wendy. And once again, I just right-click on the link between the two thoughts, and I can set this link type up again and again and again throughout my brain. So I can always identify that specific type of relationship. Now, from time to time, you get a very unique relationship. You don't necessarily need a link type for this. It's only going to be defined one time or two or three times within your brain. So you don't need a link type. You just want to just explain what the relationship or why this particular thought is linked to another one. So we're going to link LifeORX to another employee. This is Laura. And Laura, I believe, is over in our legal department. So I've got a lot of information about her tasks and projects, information on her notes down below and what her responsibilities are and so forth. But the reason why Laura is linked to LifeORX is because she actually takes LifeORX. And sometimes it's really, really great to get that firsthand review of a particular product. You take LifeORX? Great. Does it make you drowsy? Do you have any side effects? Anything that you can share with our customers? And from time to time, we'll actually put Laura on the phone with some of our clients. She wants to share her experiences with this particular product. And that's a really, really great resource for us. Now, we don't have a lot of employees taking a lot of our different products, but here's one example. So I'm going to just customize this particular link a couple of different ways. So first off, I'm going to not set up a link type. I'm not going to be using this link type frequently. I'm going to edit the link and just quite clearly say Laura takes LifeORX. So I just type in the word takes, and I can clearly see Laura takes LifeORX. But I'm going to take this one step further. Again, I'm going to highlight on the link, And down below, I can modify just this individual link's properties. I can give it a color if I want. So now I'm not working on a link type because there's no link type. It's just the specific link. And I give it a little orange link that stands out. But I can also make links directional. So you can toggle this button. Anytime you have a link highlighted, you can toggle this button. The circle means there's no direction whatsoever. It's just a link. I create an arrow, so this person is responsible for this product. This person reports to this person, so the arrow kind of comes into play. But in this case, I also want to check the box for one way. So when I'm looking at LifeRx 2.0, it's really, really helpful for me to know that we have an employee that takes this particular medication. But when I'm on Laura's thought in my brain, I'm usually discussing some legal spiegel deals about, is the contract that we're submitting up to par with our legal team? Is the presentation, is the branding correct? Have I said anything that I shouldn't? So she's a very important player in our legal team. At that time, when I'm on Laura's thought, I don't need to know that she's taking LifeRx. I only need to know that when I'm on the LifeRx thought because that's beneficial information for promoting this product. So I set up a one-way link. And what a one-way link means is, here I am on coronary artery disease. I click down to LifeRx. Yes, of course, I can see that we have an employee that takes LifeRx. I can get to that thought, get to Laura's thought, get her phone number, her information, or some quotes to share with a client or distributor. That's great. Now, because it's a one-way link, remember, I'm going up to my Scout Laboratories, and I click down through my team members. Here I am in my legal team, and I click on Laura's thought. Notice that jump thought, that link between LifeRx and Laura does not appear. And that's because I've set up a one-way link. It's only going to appear when I approach from LifeRx. So not a feature that you would use on every thought in your entire brain unless you really specifically want to make a directional path that a person follows. But when it's needed, it's absolutely just one of the really, really special beneficial features within the brain. Those one-way links to define a particular relationship when it only comes from one direction. So again, that's simply by clicking on the link itself and going down and modifying all those link properties when that particular link is highlighted or modified. So let me go ahead and click back to the top and once again share with you that these link types come down through medical conditions and coronary artery disease, LifeRx. All these link types that you're seeing on the brain not only give me additional context to better understand how all this information fits together, but link types can be filtered in your reports. So that's another benefit to adding those link types and thought types. Now, Shelley showed us earlier all the different thought types and tags within her brain. So, of course, I can go down to reports. And if I just refresh my report screen, let's give this a little more screen real estate. If I just refresh reports, you can see that this is an alphabetical listing of all the thoughts in this brain. So I can click on a particular thought, and it goes directly to that thought in the brain. But I can also filter this report. So I want to show all thoughts that are of the thought type medication. So it takes me to all those individual thoughts, and I can click on any one of those to get directly to that specific thought. And once again, show me all thoughts that have a link type that's associated with them of clinical trials. So not too many of those, and actually I just set up that link type for label expert, so there's not too many of those, but I set up a few. So Wendy has a link that is label expert, so does OneMed, LifeRx, and Damien. So those link types can be filtered in your reports. Another really, really great feature of navigating through a very large, expansive brain that has grown and evolved over time. So I really hope you find all of those tools, those link types, tags, and thought types useful in developing your own brain. And with that, Shelley, I think we'll go into QA to see if we have any questions for us on the demo today.
Okay, great. I've got my headset on. Is my sound okay?
Yes, it is.
Okay, excellent. Great example on link types, and a comment that came in from Gerard, and actually said, "Hey, Shelley, don't forget the search function, which is one of the coolest features of the brain." So we have been covering reports, but yeah, if you want to just go over the search, basic search, and advanced search, and also the timeline view with the clock next to the search.
Oh, absolutely.
That is helpful. And thanks, Gerard, for bringing that up, because yes, once you have this ginormous brain, you can navigate visually. And we've been doing that to show you structure, but use that powerful search. That's the great thing about the brain, the combination of search and visualization. So Matt, I'll let you go ahead and demo that.
It really is a powerful feature, because everything that's text-based that's going into your brain is indexed and therefore searchable. So that not only includes the thought names, but all of the notes that you're taking on those thoughts, all of the file attachments, whether it's a web link or an internal attachment or just a shortcut to a file that's on your network. It's going to be indexed and is therefore searchable. So notice I just type in a couple of letters in my brain, and any thought that matches whatever it is I've typed in so far starts to appear in our quick search results. So these are just thought names that contain DI in some form or another, and I can click to go directly to that specific thought, or I'll do a more extensive search. So for the word disease, once again, there's 3 thoughts that contain the word disease, but I have a feeling that particular thought is going to be showing up a lot more, and it does, in all of the content. So here are some notes that are appearing with that particular thought. Any web pages or other bits of content are going to appear there as well. So here's one, for example, under Heart Labs. That's one of our competitors. The thought is ACE, and notice that I can click on ACE, and the word disease is actually appearing in the content of the notes in this example. So file attachments, web attachments, your notes, and all of the thoughts that you're creating, all index, and it makes for a very, very powerful search feature within the application.
Yes, so very great. And then just cruising around really quickly, just using that instant activation. So the quick search and the advanced search, you are set. And then of course, once you find that element, you'll discover related items. That's why the brain is so helpful for sharing, and we didn't cover that. So Matt, real quick, I know that's a whole other web session, but if you could show what your brain looks like, maybe synchronize the brain cloud and how you set up to share this brain. Just again, we're going into overtime. We'll go maybe
Absolutely.
10 minutes into overtime. I don't want you guys to be overwhelmed with all the info that we've shared today, but we do have a couple questions, and one of them was about sharing the brain.
Sure.
And putting that on the cloud.
So everything that Shelley and I have done today have been here on our local machines. Shelley was opening up her brains in her desktop application. My brain is in my desktop. You may have noticed a few of Shelley's brains had the auto sync feature turned on. So up here in the upper right-hand corner, a little sync button appeared. I'm going to click on sync to synchronize this brain now. So this is a new sync. It's going to take a little while to upload to the cloud. But there you can see it's kicking off. And I'm going to open up my browser and log in to my account. So I click on log in with my information. And this is from our website. You can click on log in to log into your account once you've downloaded and created an account with the brain. And you can sync your brains to the cloud. And there you can see my brain is already showing up in the background. So that sync happened pretty quickly. And I can actually click and go into my brain. So here I am in my Scout Laboratories brain with all of my information available to me. So I can start clicking down through medications and coronary artery disease. There's my link to LifeORX. And there you can see even the links that I set up today, Damien and Laura, they've already synced, they're already there. And I can identify all the information that was available previously only on my desktop is now in a web interface. So now you can see I can open the two side by side. They look practically identical. There are a few additional features, running the reports, for example. Reports are run through the desktop app. Setting up new thought types and tags is easier done. It's possible on the online version, easier to do, I feel, on the desktop app. But you can interface with just the online version as well. So let's say we have a new document on LifeORX. I can actually click and drag just like I can on the desktop application, and we'll say research for 2017. So this is the name of the new document. I'll create that new thought right from the web interface. I can actually click on edit, edit content, upload an attachment, etc. And that information is also going to be accessible to me from my iPhone. So let's see if you can see really quickly there, it just added the thoughts. And I can now log into TheBrain. So here you can see my brain is uploading. Let's get to my brain list. And now I've got access to all of the different brains that I've created. I can open the brain through my phone, continue to edit, continue to add new content. So we've got mobile apps available for you as well. And getting right to the point of the original question, sharing. This is what makes it really, really easy to share a brain. I've posted this brain to webbrain.com. Now, by default, your brain is going to be private. So it's password protected, it's encrypted, perfectly private for you to log into, but I can always go into the settings, and let me just go into the settings of this particular brain online. Notice I've changed this brain to unlisted. So therefore, if I share the URL with another user, they don't even need to have the desktop version of the brain installed. They can go to the URL for that brain and access the brain in read-only mode online. So I'm going to go back to the brain. I'll go ahead and save those changes. I didn't change anything. But let me right-click on the background, and I'm going to show you how to get to a nice, shortened, abbreviated URL. Right-click on the background of the brain that you've synced. Oh, sorry, just lost my headset.
No problem.
Technical difficulties. So there is the URL for either to send someone to a specific thought within the brain, or just the starting thought for that brain, whatever you've marked as the home thought on the desktop version. So I can just tweet this URL out. I can send it in an email and give someone really quick and easy read-only access into a brain I've created. It's a great, great way to share a brain. We have other, like Shelley mentioned, we could have a whole webinar just on sharing.
Yes.
We've got other ways to give people editor access to the brain. There's an upgrade to the brain called TeamBrain. And you can certainly send us an email to support@thebrain.com. We're happy to tell you more about TeamBrain. So this makes a brain collaborative, multiple people editing the same brain, as well as different ways of sharing a zipped up brain. So if you want everyone on your team to have a copy for them to play around with and modify, they can install the brain. You can zip your brain and send it out to your colleagues, and they can start playing with the application locally on their machine. So a lot of different capabilities. And again, send us an email to support@thebrain.com if any of those ring a bell with you, and we're happy to discuss them further.
All right, great. And then just to add to that, of course, you can privately share with TeamBrain. You don't have to make it public. In this case, a lot of educators and researchers do like to publicize their brain and that then make it as a read-only fashion. But as Matt mentioned, lots of configuration options, something we can cover on another session. Now, a couple more questions before we close the session. Tammy asked earlier, who owns the data? How is it saved? Where is it stored? Where does it reside on your hard drive? So interesting question, but one thing before we get into storage, I think it's important to note that the brain just connects you to all sorts of third-party data sources. And when I'm making that link, whether it's to SharePoint, Salesforce.com, Evernote, OneNote, the internet, the cool thing about the brain is it doesn't have to store the data for you. I know the question is about, if you're dragging and dropping files locally, but the cool thing is those files and links you have actually don't have to be stored in the brain at all. Jerry Mikulski is a great example. He's got over 350,000 thoughts of web links. You can link to SharePoint, and what you do is just dragging and dropping those paths. The brain basically then serves as a remote control, which is probably more of the case for researchers because a lot of the time there's, PubMed If you're a medical researcher, there's Pub's Law. If you're a legal researcher, if you're in an IT environment, you might also have shared folder drives, which you can just drag and drop links to those folders as well. The way I dragged and dropped a link to a folder that happened to be local on my desktop, well, yes, that folder happened to be local, but that could have easily been to a folder on a network drive. The only thing you have to be careful of course, if you're putting a link to something on a network drive, you got to make sure the network drive, you have access to it when you have that brain.
That's right.
So that's the way that works. I mean, the brain itself, the program is stored on your computer, but the information doesn't necessarily have to be. Now, the only caveat I'll add to that is if you do want to synchronize your files through our cloud onto your iPhone, as Matt's shown you, then those files have to be local. And Matt, I don't know if you have anything more to add to that.
Yeah, really quickly, I'm glad you mentioned it, that OneNote and Evernote, gosh, there's so many that are out there, Google Drive and Dropbox, a lot of those online file sharing services and file storage services that are online, each individual file has a unique URL. So any unique URL can be brought and attached and associated with a thought in the brain. Most of those utilities, and we've got some, if you go through our recording history on our website, we've covered entire sessions just about those types of online file storage and file sharing services. Typically, what happens is you right-click on a file, there's always a share option, and that's where you get the URL that you can bring into the brain. So be aware that all of those can come into the brain for your local data. I mentioned this briefly. I think Ian had the question, and when you create a new brain, it's a .brain file and an _brain folder. So here are all the local brains on my machine, and this particular brain is the Scout Laboratories, so I think I have that located here. Inside Scout Laboratories, this is a mini database that's being visualized in the Brain application. You typically don't need to access a brain this way at all, but just to show you, there's a files directory. Each one of these folders contains a folder for an individual thought, and if there's an attachment or Word document, an internal Excel spreadsheet, whatever, that would be located here inside one of these folders. So even without the brain running, you can do a search for a file that you recently were editing. It was located in your brain. Maybe you're on Mac and you're doing a Spotlight search, or on your PC searching your C drive. You're still going to be able to find those internal attachments within your brain. They're not compressed or zipped up or even renamed in any way. The file will just simply reside in one of these directories. Here's that. This is just an image, but if there's a file associated with that thought or what have you, that would be here as well.
All right, great. And then very interesting question from Sally Ann about link types. She writes, I understand the brain is mainly designed to handle text links. Have you used it for logical links? And I asked her to expand on that question, and she mentioned simple logic such as is at, or more complex deontological links such as is forbidden to are important for representing legal relationships. So yes, to answer your question, Sally Ann, we've created, you can have a full link label. Or Matt, if you even want to show how you can add a paragraph or attach a document to a link, these link properties can be as simple as point to, or as you could write you could attach a full PhD dissertation to a link type if you wanted to. And then if you want to get into logical relations, if P then Q, like I sort of did by branching out. Yes, you can do all kinds of things with the links. Real quick, Matt, maybe you can just show how to expand on the link annotations. And by the way, for all of you on this call, if you have complex sets of information you want to represent different scenarios, do call or write into support, because we're happy to jump on a one-on-one web meeting with you and advise you more specifically.
Sure, and sort of along those lines, in this same brain, I saw this earlier when I was clicking through my reports, that this is a branch I didn't even get a chance to demo today, but this has that same effect. This is a new client procedure, so the instructions that an employee within our office follows to sign on a new distributor for our products. Step one is having a face-to-face, and we must ask ourselves, was that meeting a success? Yes or no? Now you can see I'm branching off and going in two separate directions. If it's no, I go into the finesse area and follow all the instructions on how to finesse an early deal. If this meeting was a success, they liked us right away, great. I'm going on to step 2, which is send a non-disclosure form. So this starts giving me the direction I need. And notice I can even say, was it a success? No, I need to finesse. Then I go to my 2-month check-in. Once again, if that was a success, I wrap back around to that original send client non-disclosure. If it's no, I move on to a 1-year check-in and follow those instructions. What is the 1-year check-in procedure? Obviously, all of that would be in the notes. What defines a success and whether they're ready to sign or not? Again, that would be defined on the link relationship. So as Shelley mentioned, you could have an entire paragraph or attached documents just when you highlight a link to follow those specific procedures. So this is a very high-level basic yes, no. We can even add a maybe thought type if we want. But I think that answers the question that, yeah, you can certainly set up a brain that follows that if-then type of structure to really lead a person through a business process, whatever that process may be. So those options are definitely there, and we've seen a lot of brains set up that way. This is a simple example of that type of model.
All right, great. And I think with that, we're going to close the Q&A. A lot of you have been asking if this session has been recorded, and yes, absolutely. You will, just for signing up, be emailed the link to more of the recording, but it's always posted on our homepage and always posted past recordings, thebrain.com/recordings, all kinds of great past events that you can watch on demand. And then I do want to mention this Friday we have the Brain 101. This session, because we're talking about research and discovery, we've gone maybe a little bit into the esoteric sphere of link types and all kinds of, very interesting scientific brains. That being said, if you just want to create a brain on, gardening or your vacation, or you just downloaded the product and you're thinking, whoa, this is a lot, then we have the perfect class for you. Hosted this Friday by Matt Caton. That's the Brain 101. It's every Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Also, advanced users, a lot of you will log in at the end, and every single question gets answered in demo because the class size is quite a bit smaller than for these larger web events. So I really want to encourage all of you who have additional questions to use those as a support resource and pop in and out, maybe like you have today. We have the streaming audio going. We're happy to have you for the full session or even just a portion, and use that. And so again, that's on our website. You can sign up for the Brain 101. And I think with that, we're going to end today's session. But before I do, Matt, any final words of wisdom on creating and innovating in a research brain?
Great. Well, I just want to share with everyone, we did cover a lot of information today, but there's always ways to go back and modify and edit that content that you're adding into your brain. So again, thanks for the plug for the 101 that we'll have this Friday, and I'll cover some of those specific features. How do we go back and change a thought from internal attachments to shortcuts and vice versa, and what are the different options for adding attachments? A lot of basics behind using the application, all on those Brain 101s. And a wealth of resources on our website. Some sample brains, even brains that we demonstrated today, are all available on our website. You can actually go to thebrain.com/apps, APPS, and download some sample brains.
All right, great. And the Brain offers free complimentary support to all users. So feel free to chat with us through our website or call on our support lines or email us at support@thebrain.com. And in, I think, 2 to 3 weeks, mid-September, our next topic is visual file management. So if you have a lot of files, sign up for that webinar, and we'll hope to see you on that event and future events with the Brain. So thanks for joining us today, and I wish everyone well on collecting, expanding, and innovating with your research brain.
Thanks, everyone.